está ali, andando ao lado, quando a gente sabe aproveitar. Então assim, agora eu vou chamar um cara que tem sorte, mas pensa numa pessoa que tem sorte. Eu vou chamar aqui o Guilherme Bechamon, meu amigo querido, que além de ter sorte, ele tem várias histórias que trazem todas essas sortes maravilhosas. O Guilherme vem aí.
Sorte. Dizem que todo empreendedor precisa de sorte. Eu tive sorte de ser demitido do meu emprego. Sorte de ter sido rotulado como uma pessoa sem futuro e incompetente. Sorte de começar um negócio numa salinha de 25 metros quadrados, sem dinheiro e no pior cenário econômico possível. Sorte de seguir meu próprio caminho, mesmo quando a minha família achava que era impossível. Sorte de ter medo das incertezas e de quase ter desistido. Sorte de quase ter quebrado algumas vezes e ter vendido meu carro para continuar acreditando no meu sonho. Sorte de lutar contra tudo e contra todos, porque tudo isso se transformou em combustível para seguir em frente e acreditar que estava no caminho certo. Sorte não cai no colo. Sorte é aquilo que mostra que tudo que pode dar errado, mas no final é o tombo que te torna mais forte. Ela vem da resiliência, da vontade de vencer e do desejo de mostrar que você é capaz. Vem das pessoas que acreditam nas suas palavras. Vem no frio na barriga de inspirar e de realmente ter fé nas suas crenças. Sorte não é para poucos. É para todo mundo que corre atrás e nunca desiste. Quanto mais você acredita, sonha e trabalha, mais sorte você terá para chegar onde nunca imaginou. E ao chegar lá, você vai descobrir que a sorte é recompensa pela sua coragem. Boa sorte, empreendedores!
Falei que o cara tem sorte. Cara é cheio de sorte. E além de sorte, é muito gente boa. Vocês estão tudo aqui já, né? Hasta la vista, baby. Sabe que uma vez eu entrevistei, e aí eu pedi para ele gravar, e ele gravou. Hasta la vista, Glenda. Eu tenho isso guardado. Os meus filhos amam. Senhoras e senhores, com essa casa lotada, cheia, bonita, a visão daqui é linda, é emocionante. Preparem-se. O que vem a seguir não é um painel comum, é um verdadeiro blockbuster. Um passo à frente, por favor. Vou dar 2 para não dar erro. No nosso próximo convidado, já salvou o mundo de apocalipses. Enfrentou máquinas do futuro. Sobreviveu à selva mais letal do cinema. E governou um dos maiores estados dos Estados Unidos. Um homem que atravessou o tempo, os continentes e as telas. Parou na nossa casa várias vezes. E que hoje ele está aqui. E vai entrar aqui nesse palco, pronto para uma conversa de outro nível. Mas atenção, atenção. Não esperem apenas músculos, explosões, frases de efeito. O que vocês vão ver agora é sério, ele é demais. É um líder com visão, com disciplina, com uma história de vida que inspira milhões de pessoas pelo mundo inteiro. E para conduzir esse papo, eu chamo aqui uma pessoa que também sabe muito sobre decisões de alto impacto, liderança, responsabilidade e estratégia. Com vocês, o CEO do Banco XP, José Berenguer.
Valeu, pessoal. Obrigado. Uau! Pô, é a vez mais cheia. Nunca vi tão cheio. Boa noite a todos. Prazer ter vocês aqui. Bom, algumas pessoas nascem para desafiar limites. O nosso próximo convidado não apenas se tornou um ícone do esporte e do cinema, mas também provou que a verdadeira força está em transformar realidades. Como 38º governador da Califórnia, ele liderou um dos estados mais inovadores do planeta. Enfrentou crises, promoveu políticas de sustentabilidade e inspirou milhões com a sua visão de futuro. Hoje, ele sobe ao palco da Expert para mostrar que liderança é sobre propósito, coragem e ação. Senhoras e senhores, recebam com uma salva de palmas Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well,
it is so nice to be back in Brazil. Oh. The last time I was here was for one of the Arnold Classics, and I said, I'll be back. And the Terminator always keeps his promise. So it is great to be back here again, and I tell you, I came here for this Q&A. But at the same time, I had the chance of meeting some of your governors of the rainforest states. And because there's a big international environmental conference and UN conference, the biggest environmental conference in the world, in Brazil. And it's all about kind of protecting the environment and also about cutting down and saying, hasta la vista, baby, to pollution. So this is what this conference is about. So that's why I met with them, because they are doing great work on both sides. Liberals, conservatives, makes no difference, because we have the obligation to clean the world and to leave this place a better place than we inherited it. So this is what this is all about. So I'm helping with them, I'm working with them and coordinating with them. So it's really wonderful to come down here, not just for doing this interview, but also to meet with the governors and with the leaders. And then I also just met Anna Paula, who is running the Arnold Classic with her partner Philippe. You know, so I just met with them and we're talking about the Arnold Classic, how it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's over 100,000 people that were there last time. It's just really getting huge. So this is why I have so many different lives: the bodybuilding life, the fitness life, you know, the environmental life, the policy life, motivational life, you know, all of those kind of things. So I'm so happy that I'm able to talk about all of those things while I'm down here in Brazil.
Great.
Yes.
Auf Deutsch or
Yes.
Ein bisschen auf Deutsch? Guten
No,
Abend.
you can't speak in German here because they speak Portuguese. They don't speak German, okay?
Okay, let's do it in English then. Okay, let's start.
Ja, er wollte auf einmal in Deutsch sprechen. Ich weiß nicht warum. Das ist ja ganz komisch. Das ist jetzt in Brazil und dann will er in Deutsch sprechen. What I mean is, now he wanted to talk in German, but we're in Brazil. It's a little bit off. You go to Berlin and you interview me in Berlin, okay?
That's right. Okay, you had 3 different phases in your career, in your adult life. As a bodybuilder, an actor, and a politician. You were very, very successful in all of them. Can you please describe the transition process between them? What happened? What was, the trigger?
Well, first of all, my first life is really bodybuilding. So when I was 15 years old, I was always interested in being the most muscular man in the world. I felt like this would give me the opportunity to go then get into movies, because my idol, Reg Park and Steve Reeves, that were playing then when I was 15 years old in the Hercules movies, I felt like I wanted to be one of them. So I had a very specific goal in mind, to be one of them. So the question was, how do I get there? So I had to kind of buy the bodybuilding magazines, and they revealed what training they did. the hours and hours of working out, the hundreds and hundreds of sit-ups a day, the hundreds and hundreds of squats and chin-ups and bench press and all of this. And I was willing to do anything and everything in order to get there, to become a world champion. And so I was very fortunate that I had great idols, and I worked my butt off. And at the age of 20, I became the youngest Mr. Universe ever. So this is why and the reason why I'm telling you that is because it proved to me that when you have a specific goal in mind, it's easier to go through life. Because I knew every day when I woke up what my mission was. My mission was to be the world champion in bodybuilding. My mission was to be another Reg Park or Steve Reeve. My mission was to win those trophies and then eventually retire as the best bodybuilder of all times, and then to get into the movies. And so there was a mission there, and this is why it is so important for everyone here to know that it has nothing to do with bodybuilding, or it has nothing to do with anything else specifically, because it has to do with don't ever go through life without a mission. Don't ever go through life without a goal. Don't go through life without a dream. Remember, see it, believe it, achieve it. I've seen it in my bodybuilding career that it worked. And then when I got into movies, I mean, you would love that. When I got into movies, I was finished with bodybuilding, and I said to my agent, I said, I want to get into movies now. And he said to me, he says, are you crazy? Look at the way you look. You weigh 250 pounds. He says, this is not the 60s where they made Hercules movies. This is the 70s where Woody Allen is a sex symbol. Dustin Hoffman is a sex symbol. Al Pacino is a sex symbol. These are all guys that weigh 145 pounds, and you weigh 250 pounds. You look like a monster. No way will you get in the movies. Then they said, in your accent. I barely can understand you. Are you crazy with an accent like that? And then how about your name? What is it? Schwarzenegger or something like that? Forget it. It will never happen. Why don't you go? We like you. Why don't you go and become an owner of a health food store or of a gymnasium? We can help you with that. But again, I had a very, very clear vision of becoming another Reg Park or Steve Reeves in the movies. And so this is why there was no way anyone could talk me out of that, because I could see it and I believed it. So therefore I felt like if I put the work behind it, I can achieve it. And I started taking acting classes, stunt classes, sword fighting classes, English classes, speech classes, even accent removal classes. Now, of course, I should get my money back from that guy who told me that.
I guess.
Yes, he says. But I tell you, I worked on all of those things hours and hours every day. And then eventually, I got my first movie. I got the second movie. All of a sudden, I was doing Streets of San Francisco. Then I was going to do the Jane Mansfield story. I played Mickey Haggerty. And then all of a sudden I was doing Stay Hungry with Jeff Bridges and Sally Fields. And then I was doing Conan the Barbarian. Imagine how lucky. Conan the Barbarian, a $20 million budget movie with Universal Studio. So all of a sudden, there I was, an international star. Everything that those agents and studio executives said is impossible, all of a sudden became possible. And I tell you, it is so much fun to do the impossible. I loved it. And that was not it. Because of my vision, it worked to go after that vision and turn it into reality. When I ran for governor, it was the same thing again. Oh, they're gonna eat you alive, Arnold. Politics is totally different. You have to start small, like a mayor, or you have to start as a senator, or as a congressman, or something smaller. You cannot be governor. I said, why would I do this little stuff? I want to be governor of the state of California. They are ruining the state right now. I can do better than that, and I'm gonna run for governor. 2 months later, I was governor of the state of California. You see what I'm saying? So this is why it doesn't matter if it is politics or what it is. It doesn't matter what it is, you got to have a vision. You got to have a goal, and you got to have a purpose when you get up in the morning to go through this, because otherwise you're just drifting around and you're not going to go and be happy. Because we are only happy if we are striving towards something. Take this very seriously when I say that. This is not just another line, but we are only happy if we are striving towards something and if there's a mission there that we want to conquer. It's no different than the guy that is standing in front of Mount Everest and says, I gotta get up there. No matter what it takes, I'm gonna climb that mountain. And that strive, that fear factor, that the unknown of what will happen. Will he die? Will he freeze to death? What will happen on the way up? He doesn't know. But that is the joy, to go into struggle and to fight, to go through pain and the things when you fall and all of this, but you got to make it up to that peak. It is such a great satisfaction. So this is why I want to tell everyone, go after a specific goal, whatever it is, and don't let anyone tell you no or it's impossible, because it's all a bunch of crap. Everything is possible. Remember that.
Great. Thank you, Arnold. Inspiring. Think big. Go for the impossible. Well, let me talk a little bit about your core principles. Can you describe your principles? What drives you in terms of your inside? What is in your mind when you think about your principles?
Well, we can talk about the principles, but I think what is important is that we have that goal. Because when you have a goal and you strive towards that goal, the joy of struggling to get there is enormous. I tell you the difference, like for instance, when people, journalists will come regularly to the gym in the 70s because bodybuilding was something new, so they wanted to write about. And they always came up to me and says, why is it that everyone looks dour and serious in the gym, and you always have a smile on your face? I said, because I am looking forward to the next set of exercise. I look forward to the next squat, to the next deadlift, to the next chin-up, the next push-up. I say, I'm looking forward to that because every time I do a set, every time I do a rep, it gets me one step closer to realizing my goal. So because I was on a mission. The others, they just trained and did their sets, then they walked away and they were depressed because maybe they didn't grow as fast or whatever it was, but they were not happy. I was happy. I was always happy when I was doing my training. And so this only comes from when you have a certain vision, then the work and the chores become joyful, become fun. This is why it is so important. You don't want to go and be the guy that gets up in the morning and has to go to the factory only to provide for the family, and then he goes home, and then he goes to work again the next day. 78% in America, that is, 78% of the people hate their jobs. Now, what kind of a life is that? You gotta have fun what you do, no matter what it is. You gotta get in there. I remember when I was in the military and I was driving tanks. I had a good time lying underneath that tank and putting the screws down and washing the tank and oiling it and all that stuff, because it was the fun to be a tank driver. And at the age of 18, they trusted me with this 50-ton tank. It was wonderful. I was happy about all of this, lying in the dirt and being driven over with it by a tank so that they get rid of the fear of this weight above you and all this stuff. So, but we had fun doing that. So this is the key thing, it's all about that. And so I think that there's then certain rules. Like I always say, for people to be successful, you got to, number one, have your vision, but then you have to work your ass off. I always told this to my kids. I said, don't ever expect that anything will happen easy. I said, because that's the way life is. Life will be a struggle, but have fun while you're doing it. I said, there will be times when you fail. There will be times when you will cry. There will be times when you're down. There will be times when you're going to be negative and depressed and all of this stuff, but there will be times also full of joy. That's just part of it. The more you're willing to struggle, the more you're going to succeed. Because it's no different than pumping that bicep. The more you pump that bicep, the heavier you load up, and the more pain you experience. And then when you can't do another rep, now comes the forced reps. That's when it grows. With the forced reps, not the first 8 reps. It's with the forced reps, that's when it grows. When it's the most painful. That's the way it is in life. The more you're willing to go through pain and through discomfort, the further you will go in life. So never shy away from any of that. I have failed so many times. I've failed in powerlifting competitions, weightlifting competitions. I did movies. One movie will come out and it will go through the roof and it will be a huge success. Then the next movie comes out and it goes right in the toilet. And I was depressed and I said, oh my God, what does this mean to my reputation? People are gonna laugh at me. I want to be the #1 box office success. And Stallone's movie was more successful. Oh my God, how can I take it? See, we all go through that. We all go through that, but you remember, you're never a loser. The only one that's a loser is that stays down. I always jump back up again and I said, now we're gonna go for the next movie. And then the next movie, I beat his box office record, Stallone's. Because we had this competition all the time, you know. Who kills people with a longer knife? I mean, stupid stuff, like little kids. Who goes and kills more people in the movies? Who makes more money at the box office? Who has less body fat? I mean, stupid things like that. We will compete about everything. But it made us more determined, and it made us struggle more, and it made us better as actors, it made us better as action heroes, it made us better as people, might make us tougher and everything. We always, today, since we have a good relationship, we always comment on it, how we inspired each other. So this is the way it is. So I think that you have to realize that you have to work your ass off and not listen to the naysayers. That is one of the most important things. And the other, of the fourth one out of the 10, that there are, one of the most important ones that I want to mention quickly is give something back. Don't just think about yourself. I always tell people, when they write about me and they say, Arnold is the perfect example of the self-made man. I say, I am not a self-made man. My mother gave me birth. My mother and my father raised me. The teachers spent a lot of time with me to educate me. The coaches spent a lot of time to help me with soccer and with skiing and with sledding, with ice skating and ice curling and all of those things. In bodybuilding, I got so much help from trainers. So people brought me to America, the Weider brothers. I say, all of these people, then there was like 5.5, 6 million people that voted for me to become governor of the state of California. I didn't make myself governor. So was I a self-made man? No. There's millions of people that voted for me, made me governor. And guess who made my movies successful? The fans. The fans, all of you that go to see my movies, that is what makes it successful. And then the press writes, Schwarzenegger is a success at the box office. Well, who made me a success? You. You see, but you have to realize that. You have to realize that you have a lot of help to be where you are today. And that is important to recognize, because that means that you have now the responsibility too to help others. So there's always so much help that is needed out there in society. When I went to America, I remember people reached out to me and said, "Can you help us with Special Olympics?" I had no idea what Special Olympics was, but I said yes. And I became the powerlifting coach of Special Olympians, helping those kids to go do powerlifting. And I became the national coach and the international coach, and we were struggling together. I learned from them, they learned from me. I started after-school programs. I was the chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, traveling through all 50 states in America to promote health and fitness amongst the youngsters in the schools, in the public schools. And then I ran for governor. I always wanted to give back, and even today, to me, to go and promote environmental issues, or to promote, infrastructure, or how to get rid of the homeless, and how to help the homeless, how to help with healthcare, and all of those things. We have the Schwarzenegger Institute. It's all about giving back, giving back. Anyone can go and help somebody else in the most minimal way or in a big way. So it really depends what you have to offer. So I just wanted to let you know, what makes the world go round is that we help each other.
Great. Arnold, you have spoken several times about the no plan B mindset. How do you think this applies to business during very difficult times?
Well, I don't think do not have a plan B has nothing much to do with a difficult time or with a good time. It's just my personal opinion is that if you set out a plan, and at the same time that you say to yourself, but if this doesn't work, I have a plan B. As I said to you earlier, it's already tough enough when everyone around you says, this can't be done. It's impossible, like I heard my whole life. But now if you say there's a plan B, that means that you now don't only hear it from the outside, but you're hearing it from within you. Oh, there's a possibility this may not work. Now you start questioning yourself. How are you going to be a winner if you question your goal? You can't. If a weightlifter goes in front of a bar that weighs 500 pounds and he wants to break his record, he cannot go to this bar and bend down and say to himself, I don't know if I can lift it or not. It's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if he bends down to this bar, he looks straight ahead, and he sees himself having lifted this weight already. He's absolutely convinced it will happen. That's the only chance that he can lift this weight and break his own record. So this is why I say plan B cannot exist, because that means that I'm already surrendering and I'm already coming up with excuses so that I can tell going everyone, well, if this doesn't work out, then I have this planned. No. I personally believed always, I got to stick to my principles, I got to stick to my plan, I got to believe in my plan, and I'm going to go all out. And then if I fail, I failed. But I'm not going to start out with the plan by already saying, okay, but if this doesn't work, I'm going to have plan B. So this is why I say there is no plan B.
Clear.
There is no plan B. Just remember that.
Great. Well, Arnold, in your Netflix documentary, one of your friends says the following: Arnold believes that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste? Well, we live in Brazil, we live in an emerging economy, we have crises every week or so, joking, but we had several crises. What is your advice to the audience in terms of working through crisis or managing through crisis?
Well, I mean, I always feel that if there's a crisis, first of all, there's a reason why there's a word called crisis, right? Because everyone has crisis. I mean, that's just the way it is, especially if you get involved in government. I mean, when you're a governor like myself, when I was in office, I put out a fire over here and another fire starts over here. You put out the fire over here and you start another fire over here. So that's just the way it is. So you put out, fires. But I remember, for instance, in California, when I became governor, there was a major crisis. We had an economy that was going down. We had a recession, not only in California, but nationwide and worldwide. And we had blackouts. The governor couldn't keep the lights on. Businesses were moving out of the state and people were moving out of the state. And it's just no matter where you looked, there was a crisis and we were in bad shape. And that's why I ran eventually for governor. And I used that crisis to bring people together. And I was very creative because they were always fighting, the Democrats were fighting the Republicans. And those that don't know the parties, it's the liberals fighting the conservatives. Same as here. No matter which country you go, it's the same thing. And what I did was I went in there and I said, a firefighter that just died in the fire. I went to the funeral and I went to his father and I said to his father, is there anything that I could do for you? And the firefighter's father said to me, please make everyone get along. We can't continue the way it is now, where the Democrats and the Republicans are always fighting and trying to derail each other. And I took this very seriously. I said to myself, this is exactly what we need to do. It's not so much that I have the Republican principle and he had the Democratic principle. It has much more to do with the willingness to be inclusive and to say to the other party, you are not my enemy. You are my friends. I want to utilize the Republicans and the Democrats. I want to bring everyone together because together we have the intellectual capacity and we have the brain power that we can solve any problem that we have in California. And with that attitude, people came together for the first time in a long time. Now it helped also that I was married to a Democratic woman from the Kennedy family. So they knew that I was serious when I say, I don't look at you as the enemy. And we worked together. We came up with the most extraordinary environmental kind of accomplishments, economic accomplishments, building infrastructure in California that hasn't been built in decades. And we did all kinds of really wonderful things. So I used this crisis to an advantage and kind of turned it around and made it so that the state of California could flourish and could gain on revenues and that people get better education, that we get better health care, less homeless, and more businesses coming back to California, and all of those things. So this is, I think one has to kind of study the crisis and to just say there's an opportunity here. We just have to think it through carefully. And that's what I told also the governors that I met from Brazil. I say, there is a crisis with the rainforest, and there's a crisis because, the parties are not getting along, and there's a crisis with your country, with America, and there's all this kind of stuff. I said, but when you have this environmental meeting very soon, end of this year, I say, take this opportunity, study it carefully, and make it blow out of the water. I say, I see great hope during this UN conference, that great things can be accomplished. I said, study the issues, and really go for it. I said, you guys have the right spirit, and you're all together, you know, left and right, everyone is together on that.
Great. There is one story that I love, which is the smoking tent. The smoking tent is a symbol, right? You put opponents, different politicians, in order to talk and reach a common agreement. Can you describe what was behind the idea of the smoking tent?
Well, the smoking tent, so when I was governor, there was a atrium that was out in the middle of the Capitol. There was kind of like a quarter of this hall. And I said, okay, the law says that you can't smoke inside the Capitol, which I understand. I don't want anyone to inhale my smoke. So that's why I passed all of the laws, the anti-smoking laws. Even though I was a smoker, I passed and signed all of the anti-smoking laws. Because to me, it was not about me, it was about we. You know, when you become governor, it just goes from me to we. And so I felt like, you know, the restaurants should have just the outside patio where you can smoke, but not inside. Airplanes shouldn't have any smoke inside, and blah, 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 all this stuff. Government buildings, no smoking inside. So of course the Capitol had no smoking inside. So then I said to myself, but what I can do is, according to the law, it says, but 20 feet away from the Capitol walls, you can smoke. So I built a tent outside in this atrium that was 20 feet away from the walls of the Capitol. And there I smoked my cigars and I had my meetings. Little did I know that all of a sudden I got phone calls from the Democrats and from Republicans that were smokers, cigarette smokers now, and some cigar smokers. And they said, can we come down and use the smoking tent? We are smoking, but we can't smoke in the Capitol. I said, of course, come on down. So they came down and all of a sudden I see like 7, 8 of the lawmakers, of the politicians sitting there in my tent. The jackets were off, the tie was loosened up. And I said to myself, this is actually a very relaxing atmosphere. I think that we can start doing business here. Democrats and Republicans were sitting together. So I said to them, I said, can I ask you a question? I said, I want to rebuild California. I want to build infrastructure in California. What do you think that it's going to take? Then they all were just openly kind of spewing things and telling me what it would take. The Democrats were talking about, you know, this is really great for labor, for the unions. They said they will get a lot of work and blah, blah, blah. The Republicans were saying, yeah, we need this because we need to bring businesses back. That will bring us more revenues. And so everyone had their own kind of little things that they were saying to me right then and there while I was smoking the cigars. And of course, illegal cigars, Cuban cigars, I remind you. So we started having meetings regularly in the tent where we could be totally honest to each other, but it was not official. No one was recording anything. And we were having discussions like that. And we got a lot done because of this smoking tent. It was not intended to become kind of a negotiating tool, but it ended up being a great negotiating tool. And so the tent, after I was finished with the governorship, the governor now, or the Jerry Brown after me, and Governor Newsom now, they're not smokers, so we took the tent down and I stored it, and eventually I'm going to go and auction it off, where the money will go do some after-school programs or something like that. But I mean, it was a wonderful kind of a thing, a historic thing, to smoke and to have all the legislators, kind of a lot of the legislators, smoke in the middle of the Capitol in this smoking tent.
What a fantastic story. Yeah. Well, let's move a little bit into your business, or the business that you are in today. Before you pull the trigger, you decide to move forward with an investment, and you are very successful in investing. Can you describe your checklist? What do you look in detail before you decide to move forward with an investment?
Well, remember that my investments was, when I started out, was in real estate. It was like, I just felt like that I have to save a certain amount of money, which was something like $30,000, to buy a 6-unit apartment building. That was my focus. I was fixated on this 6-unit apartment building. I didn't want to buy a home. I didn't want to buy a condominium. I wanted to buy income property first. That was the most important thing. Then I found this wonderful Lebanese woman. She was little, and she was a fantastic real estate agent. Because she was a foreigner, she could sympathize with a foreigner and about saving money and putting it in the bank. This is we're talking about the 70s now, where $30,000 is a lot of money. But in any case, the bottom line is that she helped me find this 6-unit apartment building. And I was in there, I bought it for $240,000. And within 2 years, it was worth $400,000. But I only put in $30,000 down payment. So I don't have to tell you how much money I made on that, right? But I didn't take the money. When I sold it, I traded it up to a bigger apartment building, to a 12-unit apartment building. So therefore I didn't take the money, I just used that gain, and there's the down payment. And so there was no money made, and the IRS didn't ask me for the taxes or anything like that. So now the 12-unit apartment building, 2 years later again, I moved it up to a 36-unit apartment building. And then eventually the 50-unit apartment building, and then eventually hundreds of apartments all over Los Angeles. So this is just what happens when you have a really, again, a clear vision of what you want to do, and where I did not take any money out of the investment ever, because I felt like I have to work to make the money. And so it forced me into really working, but it gave me the security so that I didn't have to go when I was in my movie career and someone says to me, "You have big muscles, Arnold. Why don't you play a bouncer in a bar in this movie that we're doing?" I said, I don't see my career going in the direction of becoming a hero if I play a bouncer. I said no. So even though I was offered some good money, I could turn that money down because I had the financial security with my real estate. So that was the idea. And that's exactly the same thing that I'm teaching my children today. My children all invest in real estate, and they're all involved. They own real estate, and they're building their real estate portfolio and all this stuff. So this was kind of like my expertise, eventually into office buildings. Then I started building office building. Even the office building that I'm in today, I built in the 80s. And so I was very, very successful, especially when we had a high inflation rate, where everyone was complaining in America about Jimmy Carter. He was president in the late 70s because he created this enormous inflation rate. But someone like me benefited from that high inflation rate because the real estate just went going up and up and up, and I kept selling and selling and made a really great, great profit because of that.
Thank you very much. Moving into legacy and future. If you could go back in time to the Arnold of 50 years ago, what would be the advice to the old Arnold, to the Arnold when you were young?
You know, I would not really change anything, because I really felt kind of like I had my head screwed on the right way. I had the basic principles of a foreigner, an immigrant that felt like welcome in America, and that knew that the only way I would make it is through hard work, and I was willing to do that. And I made the right career moves. I sometimes made mistakes, but you know, you have to learn from the mistakes, so I wouldn't even erase that. You know, I think that my only regret is on my personal level that I failed in my marriage. So that is a failure that I feel like that's the only thing I really regret, and I would have done definitely differently. So that one I care about, because you know I had the most wonderful wife, and I have the most wonderful kids, and we just yesterday night celebrated birthday of my daughter Christina. She was 34 years old, and my wife was there, and you know, the other kids were there, her siblings were there, and all, we had all a great time. So we always celebrate those things together. We have a great relationship, but it was a definite screw up on my part, and I ruined that marriage because of my doings.
Thank you for being so
absolutely.
open about it. Great.
Just the way it is.
Well, if you had to select one of your three phases or three careers, which is your favorite one?
You know, I don't have a favorite career, because I tell you that when I was 15 years old, the most important thing was to have the most muscular body in the world. I was not interested in being a great actor or anything like that, or to be a governor. I just thought about one thing, and this is that I got to go and lift the weights day in and day out and become the world champion in bodybuilding. Go to London on that same stage where Steve Reeves and Reg Park won and win this title. That was the most important thing. But then when you get to be 30, all of a sudden you say to yourself, why am I doing this? I've won now 7 Mr. Olympia titles. I've won 5 Mr. Universe titles, Mr. World, Mr. International, and all those titles. I mean, what else is in there? I should go and get into acting. And then all of a sudden, being in show business became the most important thing to me. And then I went into show business and climbed my way up and did a lot of, you know, big hit movies and all this. And we created an era, the action era, the 80s action era and the 90s and all this stuff. And it was just wonderful. But then it was all of a sudden the time in the beginning 2000, after I did Terminator 3, I said to myself, California is in trouble. I got to go and run for governor. That's my calling. That's why I am today who I am. I have my bodybuilding background. I learned about discipline, about visualization, and I know how to entertain, and I know how to captivate the audience through my acting practice and training. So I know how I can give speeches to convince the California people to go out there and to convince them that I can lead this state. So I was 100% sure. And I did that. That became the most important thing then. And now to me it's important to kind of bring all of those things together like a synergy. Just like I was saying earlier, it's wonderful now to come here and to hopefully pump you up a little bit, but at the same time meet the governors about environmental issues, and at the same time talk about to Anna Paula and to Philip about the Arnold Classic, and about how we can make it bigger even, how we can connect with other entities, and how do we get bigger sponsors, how we get to go and train and help people to get fit, because we want everyone in Brazil to get fit, everyone in South America to get fit. So this now, all this, there's synergy. So this is what I love about it. And besides that synergy, I also want to kind of talk always about some universal issues, which is like, for instance, how do we become more inclusive? To me, the most important thing, and one of the things that I learned as a kid, because I had the right trainers around, was to be inclusive. Didn't matter if you were a Jew or a Catholic, a Protestant, or an Asian or black person, or a woman or a man. It made no difference. Everyone has to be treated the right way and the same way, with respect. And you have to make an effort to bring people together because social media is so much about driving people apart. Social media is the evil. And that's why I say that people should watch out and not spend that much time on social media and on your machines, because when you see that you're spending 6 or 7 or 8 hours a day on your screen time, that could be 6 or 7 hours that you could put in yourself, to improve yourself, rather than to read about someone else. So someone was asking me the other day, I was doing an interview for GQ magazine about masculinity. They said, how do young kids today that are so in trouble in the world, how do they become more muscular? And how do they become more masculine? And how do they more feel like welcome in the world of man? And I said, definitely not on a machine. Definitely not looking at that screen. That's not how you become a man. That is not how you're gonna get any help. You get help when you go out and you work your ass off. You go out and you have to set a goal for yourself where there's tremendous danger involved and risks. And then you go after that because it makes you feel good. And I said to that person, I said, and by the way, what I say has nothing really to do, because I don't see a difference between men and women. I say these principles all apply to both. It doesn't, to me, I'm not worried about, what is happening to the masculinity and what's happening to the boys today and all this stuff, because I don't feel threatened by women. I never felt like that there was one single job that a woman took away from me. I say I always hailed great performances by women. When I was governor, I was surrounded by women. My chief of staff was a woman. My secretary of education was a woman. I mean, all these people, judges and all this stuff. I had the record as the governor to hire more women judges in California. Because it doesn't matter, I never was threatened by that. I think it's fantastic. We got to find harmony and work together. That is the most important thing. So anyway, I just want to let you know that the key thing is always that to have those kind of principles that I was talking about, keep working, have a vision, and strive after that, give something back, and don't listen to the naysayers, and all of those kind of principles. This is really what works.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Well, you are known by your extreme discipline. Is there a thing that makes you lose control, or that you cannot control yourself, like chocolates or cigars or whatever?
Well, I have to confess, I don't have much discipline. Because I don't feel like I need a discipline to strive towards my goal, because it was in front of me. All I had to do is chase it. Discipline means that you hate to do something, but you have to do it anyway, and you make yourself do it. That is discipline. I never hated it. I was looking forward to getting up in the morning and to do my 200 sit-ups. I was looking forward to going to the weightlifting gym and to do the clean and the jerk and the snatch and the press, and then to go into the chin-ups and the squats. I didn't need discipline. I was just going almost like I'm addicted. I'm much more addicted to this stuff than I am having discipline. So, I want to make sure that people understand, those that don't have discipline, don't worry about it. That's why I say it is absolutely impossible to every day have the discipline to do something that you don't want to do. That's why I say, find the goal, find the mission, and then chase that, and everything will be much more fun. I want you to have fun. I want you to smile. I want you to get up in the morning like I do in the morning, and I feed my pig, and I feed my donkey, and I feed my pony, and I feed the 3 dogs, and I feed the animals. Everything is just it's just great. Then I get on a bike and I ride down to the Gold's Gym and I meet the gang. The girls and the guys there, and we're working out together, and we pump up and we compliment each other, or talk some nonsense, and all of it. So this is all fun. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, how can it doesn't take discipline. So I always want to make sure that people know, because people say, this guy is really disciplined. I said, yeah, this is a bunch of baloney. I tell you, honestly, I don't have that much discipline. If someone says to me, says, you got to get off cigar smoking, I will have a difficult time with that, I tell you that, because I don't have the discipline.
Thank you. Well, we are coming to the end. I have two quick questions before you leave.
If you're having a good time, take your time.
Okay, let's do it. Fantastic.
We're having a great time. See, you see, I mean, I just want you to know, this is a perfect example. I don't see this as a job. You know, of course I got paid to come here, but I don't see this as a job. I sit out here and I don't even think about the money or anything like this. I only think about that we are having a great time. I'm having a great time with all of you here, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. That's the bottom line.
Thank you so much. Well, if the Terminator met the governor of California, what advice, or which advice would you give to the governor or to the Terminator in this conversation, hypothetical conversation between the two of them? Which role do you prefer to play, the Terminator or the governor? Or
well, if I can switch over from the Terminator into real life with those kind of powers, I would like to be the Terminator, because then everything else will be solved. All the problems will be solved. I mean, it's like, it's unbelievable. But I mean, I tell you one thing. There is nothing like the job of a governor. And of course, I would have run for president of the United States if I would have been allowed constitutionally to run. Because you have to be born in America to run for president. So I'm not allowed to run, and people always ask me, says, doesn't that really piss you off? And I said, no. I said, because everything that I have accomplished in my life is because of America. I'm not going to complain about the one thing that I can't do because of our Constitution in America. I'm not going to complain about it. I said, that's perfectly fine. I said, but the bottom line is I tell you, everything I accomplished there was because of America, and I held this place. And being a public servant, I found out when you are the governor or the president, I'm sure it will feel even better being the president, you're just serving so many people. You're serving the people, you're the public servant. It feels so good when the life is not about you, but about we, about us. How do we make it a better place? And then to adopt the principles of not being a party hack, you know, where you kind of serve the party, the political party, but to serve just the people and to forget about the party stuff and then just be a public servant. That's what I wanted to be a public servant, and the ultimate goal is to serve the people. End of story.
fantastic. To do good, to make it happen, right? Okay. One final words to the audience. What is the final message you want to leave with us tonight?
I think there's a lot of negativity going around in the world. The things are not going well and all this stuff. I don't buy into that. I think that each and every one of us has tremendous powers to create changes. Don't trust government. Don't think that they are the answer to everything. They're helpful, but they're not the answer to everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had, like in America, the civil rights movement, where people rose up and said, we want to have equality. In America, the politicians could never manage that. We wouldn't have had the suffrage movement, where women had to rise up to get the rights to vote. in America. This was a people's movement. Government couldn't solve that problem. It was the people, the women that rose up, with the help also with the men and everything. But they rose up and they said, we're not going to take it any longer. If you look to India, the independence movement was not done by government, it was done by the people. So people have the anti-apartheid movement is another perfect example. Government could never solve that, but the people did. And so this is why I say to you, you have tremendous power. I want you to be positive. I want you to figure out which way do you want to go and to move forward in a really good way. Help each other, be inclusive, accept each other, even though if you have political point of views, accept each other and work together. I think this is, and I am so proud of Brazil, because I tell you one thing, I always love coming back to Brazil. It is a wonderful place. I love all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold. Well, thank you for being an idol and for being, above all, such a great example as a human being. Thank you very much. It was great to have you here.
Caraca, que demais! Não, podem? Tudo bem, tem nada não, tá tudo certo. Eu já sei. Muito bom. Leva para assinar, mas como é que eu não posso ir lá assinar? Como é que eu vou deixar o palco aqui agora?